I wrote a script for this video, but I threw it in the trash because it was too dry, too academic, and this needs to be wet and stupid. So it's got to be off the cuff. I don't have cuffs, but you know the drill. I don't have a drill either. Oh shit! I need props. I need to be like that prop comic, you know. I'm gonna off the cuff, and I got the handcuffs on. Oh, you know the drill. Pull out a drill. Zzz, you know. Be awesome, right? You'd get a laugh out of you, but I'm too lazy to go. I have both of those things, you know. I have handcuffs and a drill. Not in the same place. One is in a cabinet in my bedroom. The other is in a hardware box. They're not used for the same kinds of activities, okay? I assure you. I fucking assure you. All right? At least not usually. Maybe special occasion, anniversary, Christmas, you know. Anyway, what are we talking about? Oh, so recent poll came out. Go watch the last video I did, okay? Just go watch it. You'll be caught up to speed, okay? Go watch that video, read some of the responses, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, I proposed the Fact Check Administration, a government agency empowered to stop the spread of misinformation by any reasonable means possible, necessary, whatever the fuck. I laid out some criteria about how this could be done. Now, obviously, you wouldn't want this to just be like a tribunal of dudes sitting around being like, we get to now decide what's true and what's not true. I thought it should be staffed by scientists, right? Scientists of unimpeachable credentials and a strict adherence to the scientific method. Because I don't want human beings deciding what's true and what's not true. That's a problem. We're clearly not good at it. So instead, let's use the only tool that's ever been shown to overcome human bias and overcome our crazy, fanciful notions about things, the scientific method. Empirical evidence. You know, hypothesize, test the hypothesis, all that stuff. The scientific method in all of its glory and splendor that has led to tremendous advances in the quality of living and technological capabilities of humankind, okay? Let's put these human matters of what's true and what's not true in the hands of that. But I'm not even talking about every fact having to pass the muster with some crazed, or with like, we don't have to fucking live in a society of pure truth and facts. I'm not like some crazy utopian idealist on this shit. What I'm saying is that when misinformation becomes a rampant problem that is socially deleterious, we should have a mechanism in place to look at that information, determine its veracity, and if it's determined to be demonstrably and incontrovertibly, that word is very important here, incontrovertibly false and demonstrably harmful, then there should be some agency that has the capacity to act and to, I'm gonna use the word, I know, censor that information because it's not true information and it's harmful information. It's misinformation, it's disinformation. It's not actually true, and it's actually believing it causes not only harm to yourself, but to other people. So I'm going to address some of the criticisms of that idea. So one criticism is that it's authoritarian in nature. Okay, fair enough. I gotcha. I mean, look, if authoritarianism wasn't seductive, then no one would ever walk down that path. No one would ever be like, if authoritarianism was just 100%, had no appeal whatsoever, it's just awful in every way, shape, or form, then no one would ever fucking walk down the path of authoritarianism. Okay? Of course they wouldn't, because why would you? If it's just 100% awful and no good could ever come of it, or you can't even conceive of a good that would come from it, you wouldn't walk down that path. That being said, I'm glad that you guys are hyper-vigilant against authoritarianism. I respect the people who are concerned that this idea is a bit too authoritarian. But what I would say to you is that if you look at authoritarian regimes throughout history, and I'm not going to be claiming to be any sort of great historian here, this is a layman's understanding of history, but I think that it holds water, and you can determine for yourself. Um, Hitler, right? He sold Germany the idea that the reason behind Germany's humiliating defeat in World War II and humiliating sort of economy-destroying deal that they had to make with the Treaty of Versailles, that this was all part of a Jewish agenda. This was all the Jews that did it. History's ultimate scapegoat, the Jew. It was all their fault. No evidence to support that. No basis in reality whatsoever, but very appealing as an answer. Very appealing as an answer to the Germans, because what's more appealing to you? You're a German citizen, right? You lose the war, you're humiliated. You're forced to sign this treaty, it tanks your economy. You're basically the whipping boy of Europe now. What's more appealing to believe at this point? That this is all your fault? This is all your hubris coming back to bite you in the ass? This is because you decided to be imperialistic? This is because your armies weren't strong enough? This is because your leaders weren't good enough? Or it wasn't your fault at all. Everything was going right. But there was an insidious force working against you from within. And if only you had rooted it out sooner, you would have won. Everything would have gone your way. And the only way it's going to go your way next time is if you take care of that problem. That's an appealing lie to most Germans. Obviously, if you're Jewish or a gypsy or something, it's like, that's not appealing at all. But if you're a white German and you are distressed about, the recent troubles in your country, so much easier to be like, the scapegoat did it. Oh, it was all the scapegoat. No fault of our own. The scapegoat did it.
Hi, everyone. It's your old pal Mickey here with a direct order. An option that you are strongly encouraged to take advantage of. You will click the link below. You will subscribe to the Pessimist Productions Patreon. If you wanna, wink wink, there's more content there than, you could swing a dead toddler at. Exclusive shows, exclusive streams, hours of exclusive content. Why aren't you clicking? Why aren't you subscribing to the Pessimist Productions Patreon? You're making Mickey sad.
A lot of these authoritarians and their regimes are based on big, grandiose lies that are demonstrably false and that yet they use to rise to power. Alexander the Great, Kim Il-sung from North Korea, DPRK, they believed, they didn't, I don't know if they actually believed, but they told people, they sold the idea that they were, not just ordinary men, they were mythological beings. They had divine powers. They had, they could teleport and they didn't have to poop. And, they were descended from Zeus. And, I'm, mixing the two up, but, you get the point. They were more than men. They were superhuman, right? And then you have, even in America, like the mythology of George Washington, or in China, the mythology surrounding Mao, or in Russia, the mythology surrounding Stalin. There's these figures make themselves larger than life, and they make their party the only way to solve these horrible problems, right? Or you could even look at the ultimate lie that permeates American culture, religion, right? Ultimate example of harsh, horrible truth that no one wants versus super appealing lie, because the truth is just the truth. The truth is not crafted to be pleasing. Sometimes the truth is inadvertently pleasing, but it's not crafted to be that way. It just is what it is. But lies, they're crafted to please you. So there's the harsh, horrible reality that you're going to die. Everyone you loved who died is now gone forever. You'll never see them again. Their consciousness is gone. Their bodies are worm food. Now, maybe there's some outside possibility that there is an afterlife of some kind, but it's very, very freaking remote. And then religion comes along with the ultimate lie. Oh, it's a beautiful lie. Oh, your loved one, they're not gone. They're not gone. They're in paradise. They're waiting for you among the clouds. And everything's going to be wonderful, and everything's going to be beautiful, and everything's going to be great, and the streets are paved with gold, and you're going to live in a mansion made of flowers, and you're going to dance happily on the clouds and play the harp. All of a sudden you're going to love the harp. It's going to be great. So it's the ultimate, harsh, horrible, unappealing truth. Death. Versus the ultimate, it's the beautiful paradise. No problems, pure bliss forever and ever. Oh, so happy. Forever and ever, happy and happy and happy and happy and wonderful. The lie, it's no wonder the lie sells more people. But who's telling the lie? And why are they telling it? Because guess what? Getting into paradise ain't free. The comfort that lie offers you, it ain't free. It comes with a lot of provisions. It comes with a lot of, hey, you better obey me and my interpretation of this book called the Bible or the Quran or whatever. You better believe my interpretation of it. You better be guided by the rules that I have decided are in this book. And if you're not, you might just go to a worse place, a place of fire and burning where you're going to suffer forever. So, people waste their one and only life trying to get into some magical paradise. And why? So that the religious hucksters pulling the wool over their eyes can live better in the here and now. Every time they pass that collection plate and ask for those tithes, how many of these religious hucksters, live in mansions, drive sports cars, don't live by a freaking syllable of what they preach, but they're out there preaching it nonetheless. And even when they're caught red-handed, pulling their scams, the flock still shows up because they've got this whole thing built in. Faith. It's wrong to question. And that's a form of authoritarianism. Or think about that poor lady, I think it's Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed in our nation's capital because she was there to fight for Donald Trump to stay president even though he lost the election. Why was she there to do that? Was it because she was a traitor against this country who hated this place? No. She loved this place. She probably considered herself a patriot. She believed the other guy was trying to steal the election. And why did she believe that? Because Trump told her to. And why did he tell her to? Not because he really believed it. Because remember, even before the election happened, he was spinning that narrative that, he primed them, he prepped them. He let them know in advance, well in advance, what he was going to expect of them. When these elections come back, it's going to be false, it's going to be rigged, you guys. It's going to be rigged. If Trump had won, do you think there would have been if it was rigged, you guys, I was still concerned that maybe some rigging happened, but of course he didn't win. So then the narrative went, it was rigged. Look, so many inconsistencies. We can't prove any of them in court, and they get consistently struck down even by my own judges, but yeah, totally rigged, you guys, totally stolen. The election was not right. The election was not fair. And Ashley Babbitt goes to her death trying to storm the nation's capital. Why? So that Donald Trump can cling on to power for just a little bit longer. So that he can indulge himself in the delusional fantasy that maybe he could become king of America. God Emperor, as some of his more ardent fans like to call him. He thought maybe he could make that a reality. And people died for it. And just right now, every week, we see stories. We see stories of people who didn't take the vaccine for COVID-19, who don't wear the mask, who thought it was all a big hoax. And then next thing you know, they're in the hospital bed, they're on the ventilators, they're dying, and what are their last words? Oh, I should have listened. I should have listened. I should have listened to what I was told. I should have taken the vaccine. I should have wore the mask. I should have taken this seriously. And then the next guy sees that. I saw a little webcomic where they show that guy dying, and then the next guy's like, I didn't believe that nonsense. And then the same thing happens to him, and then he's on the news saying it. And then the next guy's like, I don't believe that nonsense. Because now the Facebook group they belong to that tells them to inject, horse deworming farm medication to stop COVID-19, but to not take the vaccine, let's take horse dewormer instead. That'll stop the COVID-19 because my Facebook group said so. They're willing to trust that over actual science, over the CDC, over Fauci, over their own doctors and the medical establishment, over all of the data that's come in that shows that the vast majority of hospitalizations are unvaccinated people. They don't care about facts. They don't care about data because they're being sold a lie. Because really what it boils down to is they're freaked out by vaccines. A lot of them scared of needles, scared of stuff going in their body. They have weird phobias about it and they need a justification. And so someone shows up and gives them a justification and says, oh no, you're not just a little bitch who's scared of getting a prick from a needle. No, that's not what you are. What you are is a freedom fighter because they are trying to vaccinate you and it's all a conspiracy. Don't wear a mask. That's tyranny. They don't even work anyway. Lie. All of these things I'm saying right now, demonstrable lies and harmful. What social benefit does it offer you to allow people to spread that kind of misinformation? The only argument I hear from people is slippery slope stuff. Oh, well, if we created such an organization, it would become corrupt. I already explained in the previous video the checks and balances that would need to be put into place, the transparency that would need to be put into place, the criteria that would need to be put into place. See, I'm not trying. People say, oh, this is censorship, this is censorship, this is censorship. And in some very direct way, I can see that it is. But in a broader sense, is it really? I mean, my reasoning is this. You could still be anti-vax and you could still be anti-mask. You just can't lie about the reasons why. You want to be anti-vaccine? There's plenty of subjective sort of things you could throw out there that don't contradict any of the facts. You could say, I personally am not worried about COVID-19. I feel that I would rather take the risk than get the vaccine. And I feel that anyone who gets COVID-19 and dies is weak, and I'm a social Spencerist, social Darwinist, and I think that, people dying of COVID-19 removes weak people from our genetic fucking legacy or whatever the hell. It doesn't have to be that. I'm just saying there's things you can construct that are just like your personal sensibilities of like, I don't buy into that. I would rather not get the vaccine for those reasons. I don't want to wear a mask. It's uncomfortable. It's hot. It makes me feel like I can't breathe. I don't like it. I'd rather just take my risk. I'd rather take my chances with the COVID. And these are all subjective things. These are just a matter of your subjective sensibilities about these matters. And if you want to have that belief, I think it's stupid. I think it's foolish. I think it's idiotic. I think it's imbecilic. I think it's short-sighted. But if you want to have those beliefs, I don't think that anybody in this world should stop you because that's a completely subjective thing. Now, as to whether or not you should be allowed to not take the vaccine or allowed to not wear the mask, that's a separate matter. But I'm not. As far as your ability to speak out about those things, I think you should be able to take whatever position you want on it, so long as it corresponds to the facts. Some people say that it's a violation of freedom of speech to take away the rights of people to spread this sort of misinformation. Oh, it's a freedom of speech issue. Well, let me tell you this. There's plenty of instances where it's a crime to lie. Plenty of times where it's a crime to lie, right? If I were to call up a grandmother at 2 a.m. and say, your grandson is in jail, and you can bail him out, just give me your credit card information right here over the phone, and he'll be released. Everything I'm doing is lying. That's called fraud. If I were to raise money for a charity, like, oh no, I'm raising money for the victims of the recent, extraterrestrial tentacle monster attack. It attacked a girls' college sorority and they're all stretched, I'm raising money for the victims, right? The victims of hentai tentacle monsters. And then I just pocket all the money. That's fraud. It's a crime to lie in that instance. There's plenty of instances where it's a crime to lie because either it's fraud or it could harm somebody, right? Like if I give someone if I give someone my car and the brakes are out and I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's safe, don't worry." And then they crash and die, I'm liable for that. Because you know why those lies are illegal? Because they harm people. No one would look at that and say, oh, well, if you don't have the right to defraud people, then what about freedom of speech? You should have the right to knowingly spread misinformation to your fellow man, even if it's harmful to them. Why? What benefit is that? Why is it if I lie to one person and harm them, that's against the law, but if I lie to everyone and say, like, the vaccine's nanobots and they're going to take over your brain, there's going to be plaque in your mind, it's going to put holes in your head, and everyone that takes the vaccine is going to be dead in 10 years. All things Alex Jones actually said, by the way. Why should that be allowed? That's harmful. How many people hear that stuff, and even if they don't fully believe it, are like, oh, I don't know about this vaccine. I'm kind of, I don't know. Seems like a lot of crazy stuff's being said about it. I'm not sure. And they don't get the vaccine. And then they get it. And then their friend gets it. And then their friend's kids get it. And they bring it to school and they give it to other classmates. And then they take it home to their parents and their grandparents. And it spreads and people die and people get sick. And people have permanent damage to their lungs, to their brains. I read a story about a person who got COVID-19 and they lost all their sense of smell and taste. And then when it came back, it was wrong. And now everything they eat tastes awful. All the stuff they used to love tastes disgusting now. Maybe for the rest of their life. We should let that spread around in the name of giving people a right to lie? I'm not talking about, by the way, I don't think every lie should be if a bunch of people want to get together and believe in leprechauns, that is a benign lie. The only things that should be, or if there's a gray area to a claim, I pointed this out in the last time I talked about this. If there's like a gray area, like if someone wants to say, I believe COVID-19 was released from a lab in Wuhan, that's not demonstrably false. There's a lot of people that can have contentions with that, but it's not, we don't know where it came from. So what I'm talking about is, if there is a lie that is being spread around, and it is demonstrably a lie, incontrovertibly a lie, and it is provably harmful on a societal and personal level, we should fucking shut that shit down. Why shouldn't we? That's my argument. I thank you guys for listening to it. If you do disagree with me, I look very forward to seeing what you have to say on the subject. I think these kind of discussions are the most valid function that this YouTube platform possibly has. So please don't squander it being an idiot and throwing out slippery slopes and straw man. Let's actually participate in a real dialogue and discussion. I think I've treated you guys fairly and given you due consideration. and taking your criticism seriously. So please extend the same courtesy back. I love you all. If you like this video or hate it, go ahead and give it a rate. Go ahead, comment on it. Subscribe to the Pessimist Productions Patreon. Check out my channel, TJ Does Life, where I do a lot of informal streams and stuff. Most of my streaming I do over there. I know some of you guys were fond of when I was doing the Amazing Atheist streams over here. I decided to move my streaming operations largely to that channel. So you can check out a lot of stuff I talk about over there. A lot of times I get deeper into these videos, and if you have questions for me about stuff I've said here, you can always bring it over there, get it addressed. That's pretty much it. Peace.